Okay, I'm ready to actually remove the hybrid battery now. And the most important thing you have to do before you get anywhere near this battery is to remove the disconnect. So it's this orange lever here. Pop it up, pull it out, and that's your disconnect. So at this point, there shouldn't be any power to those terminals on that side or any danger. And what they recommend in the installation manual is that you put this in your pocket. That's just mainly if you're in a Toyota dealership and you don't want anybody else to put the disconnect back in while you're working and have you electrocute yourself. There's over 200 volts running through, and I don't know how many amps, but enough to take care of business. So you want to make sure this is removed. Okay, now I'm ready to take off the main cover here. There's 7 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5, 6, 7 on the other side. And I believe they're 12 millimeter. Yeah, they're 12 millimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and release these. All right, that's one. Two. Four. I've got 3 more on the other side I'm going to take care of now, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, I removed all 7 bolts from the cover, so this should just lift right off. Okay, and now we've got to remove this lower cover, which has additional bolts. Okay, now I'm going to remove this duct on this side. There are 2 little connectors. There's one of them, there's one on the other side, and then this whole piece should move out, and I need to disconnect this connector here. I believe this is a relay. Okay, and they do say I need to disconnect this relay, so let's see if I can get that out. Yeah, it's just a simple relay like that. So just push this open. Just pop out of the way. There we go. Well, don't want to break it. There we go. All right. Let that hang back there. Oops. Okay, now we need to remove this bracket on the opposite side, on the passenger side, and there are 7 bolts on this one as well. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 more on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these loose. Okay, that's 3. I'll bear you the drama and I'll go ahead and take the rest of those 7 out and be back to you in a moment. Okay, I've removed all 7 bolts for this piece. It should just lift right off. And I don't know if you can see this. There's a vent tube. It's a rubber tube here. It needs to be removed. Pull that off. It's for venting the battery. So at this point, I believe we're ready to actually pull off the last panel, which exposes the connectors over here, and then unbolt the hybrid battery from the chassis. So I think we're almost ready to swap the battery. Okay, this is a 10mm wobble extension on a 3/8" socket. We needed the wobble extension because of this cable in the way. Okay, got the bolt loose. And then there's one trim piece here. It needs to come off. Gonna need a slightly bigger trim. Okay, I used a slightly larger trim tool and was able to pop that piece off. Now this should just come right out. Well, if it doesn't come out all the way, we can just flip it over here like that. There. And that little tab piece went flying, so I gotta go dig and figure out where that went. Unfortunately, it's not metal, so I can't use a magnet tool to get it out, but I'll find it. Okay, now we're going to remove the cover that will expose the terminals of the battery. And there are 3 bolts and 2 nuts. 1 bolt here, 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there, and then there are 2 nuts over there. Probably blocking the camera with my bald head. Let's try this. Alright, there's 1. bolts and 2 nuts. And now we've got exposed electrical connections. So I'm going to take some precautions with the multimeter. Even though the disconnect safety plug's been removed, we just want to make sure there's no power going through there. Okay, so we're just doing a little CYA here. I've got a multimeter. I'm going to set it to a scale of 500 volts DC. And be very careful and pop these little tabs off the connectors. And I want to make sure that this side and this side of the system are actually have no voltage. So I'm going to assume this is negative, this is positive. No voltage, no voltage. Okay, looks like we're ready to disassemble it. Okay, I'm going to remove the wiring harness first before I disconnect the terminals. So this is actually the Toyota ECU control unit. This is one of the connectors. Okay, easier said than done. I'll have to take it from the other side. Fingers are too big. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do before I remove the terminals is I'm going to pop this little junction piece off, put it in a safe place. That's what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to remove the terminal connectors. And I'm going to try to keep these fairly clean. Okay, both nuts are off. Now these have been disconnected. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap those in insulating tape too, just to protect them while I'm removing the battery. Okay, you can see I have these wrapped in insulated tape now. So that's just going to protect the copper until I remove the battery and put the new battery in. Okay, we're ready for removal of the battery now. Okay, I'm going to detach the final 4 mounting bolts and then an earth bolt, and we'll be ready to lift the battery out. That's one. That's 2. 2 more and an earth bolt on the other side. More bolts over here. I'll do the bolts first just to make sure that those nuts don't just come off with the battery. Cheerios in here. You can tell this previous owner had a little one. Okay, I'm going to loosen that last one and be right back. Okay, as you can see, this battery is now free to move. It's quite heavy, but it does lift up, so it's ready to be removed. So I'm going to get some help to take it out, and we'll be back for phase 2, putting the new remanufactured battery in. I opened the lid of the container for Hybrid Battery Depot, and here's the new hybrid remanufactured battery. I believe that envelope contains the return shipping label and some instructions here saying that the container is the property of Hybrid Battery Depot. Okay, here are the two hybrid batteries. On the left is the one I just pulled out of the Prius, the 2004 Prius, and it appears to be bad. And then on the right is the one from Hybrid Battery Depot. And had to have a little help from the helper to get this lifted out of the car, and I'll give you a shot of the car without the battery now. As you can see, I've now removed the hybrid traction battery from this Gen II Prius. So the back's been completely stripped down, and I pulled the service plug on the hybrid battery for safety purposes to remove the voltage from any of the connections, disconnected the battery, and then unbolted it and removed it from the system, from the car. So then I've also read that the blower that cools the battery and that ventilates the battery, it tends to get caught up with hair, and so I'm going through and I'm going to service that as well. And as you'll see over here, I've removed some of the ductwork, and you can see that I've exposed the blower motor, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to zoom in here and let you see that there is lint and dirt in the actual blades of this fan. You'll see, though, to just the left of that, there are actually some air filters on this ductwork. There's one there that you see right next to the actual fan blades, but then on the other end of the ductwork, and I don't think you can really see it here, but right on the end there, there's also another filter there that has a sort of like a fabric filter on it. So I think you can see pretty closely now. Excuse me, there's definitely some grime that's in those fan blades. So I'm going to take a brush and a wet dry vac and just really clean that out really well. I'm not convinced that's clogging or affecting airflow because the blades are fully exposed, but it does have quite a bit of residue on the blades. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that out, but just to show you, there are actually 3 plastic push pins that you have to pop loose in order to get that black vent off in order to be able to service the blower. And I use a tool, and this is it right here. It's a really handy device. You can slide it underneath push pins and then press like this and it'll pop it up. So just to show that, oops. Here is one of those push pins that holds it in. What you do is you slide this device underneath the push pin, and then you'll just pop it up like that. Creates leverage and it pops it loose. And it takes quite a bit of leverage, but once you have that, it'll pop it loose. It'll be a loud pop, and it'll come off. And once again, there are 3 of those in order to release that ductwork to get into the fan blades to clean it. Alright, back in a moment. Okay, I'm getting ready to clean out the blades of this fan. I have a specialty brush here that I'm going to use. Got these from Harbor Freight as a set, but I'm thinking really an old toothbrush would probably be the best thing to clean out those blades. And then I have a small wet dry vac that I'm going to use. I'm going to keep constant suction over the fan blades as I'm scrubbing this out, just so that most of the dust and debris and lint will be sucked up by the wet dry vac instead of falling back down into the blower motor. So I'm going to get started on this now. It's going to be a little loud with the wet dry vac. It actually helps with the wet dry vac if you hook up the hose to the actual suction side instead of the exhaust. I turned it into a blower, so I'm going to go ahead and get started now. That should give you an idea of what I'm doing. I'm stuffing the brush down in between the fan blades and then sucking up the dust and lint with the wet dry vac. Okay, back in a moment. Just to give you all an idea of the amount of dust I'm pulling off of this, this is after cleaning off about 6 blades. Most of the lint is falling down into the the disc of the fan blades, which can be easily vacuumed up with the wet dry vac. But you can just see, the amount of dust and lint. And keep in mind, this is a 2004 Prius. It's about 8 years old. The previous owner had a small infant, but as far as I know, didn't have a dog. I don't see any dog hair, any type of pet hair in here. So it's mostly just lint coming from the inside of the car. So that tells me that after about 8 years, that really could be causing problems with the efficiency of cooling the battery. So it's probably a good idea to clean this thing every 60,000 miles, as to what Luscious Garage recommends. Okay, I've done a pretty good job of cleaning out the fan blades and the hybrid battery blower motor, cooling motor. And I don't know how well you can see this. It's not perfect, but it's much cleaner than it was. And now that I'm going to be servicing this every 60,000 miles, it certainly should never get to the point where it's that dirty again. So I think I'm ready to go ahead and reassemble the ductwork on this side, get the remanufactured hybrid battery in place, bolt it up, hook it up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reassemble the car to the point where the battery's installed and all the electronics are hooked up and the 12-volt battery is hooked up, and then wait on putting back all the different trim pieces until I drive it around and make sure everything's working properly. I think better safe than sorry. Just go ahead and run it around, make sure things are working before I completely reassemble the car. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing that again if there's any problem. I have heard that when you install the new or remanufactured hybrid battery, you do need to be careful about how you put the service plug back in. If it doesn't go back in and seat all the way correctly, it doesn't give power to the battery, and then you'll have problems when you start it up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start reassembly, and at some point I'll go ahead and reconnect with you and let you see some of the trim pieces going back, and then also the first drive test after the reman battery's in place. Thanks. I thought it would help if I show you one more shot of these push pins that I was using that I removed to remove ductwork. When they're in place, this little pin is flush with the top and it's holding it in place. Once you pop it out, you want to unseat that little pin, and I don't know if you can see, but it's got it sitting up like that, and then that makes it easy to push it into place. And then once you push it into place, you push the pin in and it locks it in place. Hope that's helpful.